The score of the Texas Vanderbilt game, for those of you who didn't watch it, feels kind of misleading. 34-31 was the final yesterday. So you think, ooh, shootout, wire to wire, down to the wire. Well, let me set the table here. How rarely do we have a 34-31 game that gets 2.5 chali? Well, I'll tell you. The games that are 34-10 entering the fourth quarter and end up being 34-31, those are close games that get 2.5 chali. This is a perfect example, though, of why the model and why any predictive models never fully discount the talent factor. Like Texas, for example. You'll notice that even after Texas loses some games, or Bama in the past, or Georgia in the past, Ohio State in the past, those teams lose several games, but our model still has them power-rated top 10, or Vegas numbers, FanDuel odds still favor them against teams that are ranked higher than them. Why is that? Well, it's because of what talent means. And over the course of history, it's hard to keep talented teams down for an entire year. So yesterday, Texas all of a sudden catches fire offensively. And really, it was playing off of what they did in the Mississippi State game the week before. If this is Arch Manning, Texas could be a problem. If this is Arch Manning, the back part of last week and this week, which we didn't even know he was going to play until later in the week, Texas scored on their first 6 standard drives in this game. Arch was 25 of 33, 328, 3 touchdowns, no picks. That is not a bad Vanderbilt defense, guys. So you remember what I told you earlier, sometimes you got to wait for guys to get healthy to peak in the season. Sometimes guys also developmentally are not all ready to go by week 1. Sometimes guys click during the year. Arch Manning may just be clicking. If he is, Texas is not out of anything yet. They're a 2-loss team, but Texas still has everything in front of them. They had 25 rushes under 100 yards yesterday, too. So they didn't have this great ground game to lean on, but they still owned most of the game until the fourth quarter. And you've got to credit Vanderbilt. I mean, they made a comeback here officiating. Look, I just got to say it was very, very suspect in the fourth quarter. I think it aided Vanderbilt's effort to come back. Texas's secondary also greatly aided Vanderbilt's effort to come back. A will to win aided Vanderbilt's effort to come back. But November is a very long month. Hey, really quick timeout. We'll get right back to the video. Do me one favor. Make sure you're subscribed. It helps us keep the show free. It helps us keep the lights on. It helps us keep doing college football year-round, and we appreciate it. All right, back to the video. And it's only the 1st or 2nd of November, but you start to get out into these waters where you've got your playoff fate in your own hands, and it just gets tough. The air is thin. It just gets tough to keep stringing together wins. So now Vandy's 7-2, probably not going to go to Atlanta, but they've still got their playoff fate in their hands. Bottom line is this. They got Auburn and Kentucky at home. They go to Tennessee. They win those 3 games, they're in. So, is there an insurmountable hurdle there? I don't think so. At the same time, is there a gimme there? You may think there is. Like Auburn at home, you may think there is. The line is 7.5 on that game. You don't know how Auburn's going to play under an interim head coach. You just watched Kentucky throw the crowbar into the spokes at Auburn against the head of Auburn. And then you got Tennessee and Neyland at the end of the year. So they're all going to be tough, but they're all winnable. But how much will this fourth quarter matter? That's what I kept thinking about the Texas game. So first thing you want to do, in this order, hold on and win the game. They did. Then the game's over, and I started to ask myself, all right, I just saw the Texas secondary get worked back-to-back weeks now. So a flaw has been exposed there. 350-plus passing yards for Vandy. All right, so that's the first thing. That's going to matter down the road. But then the second thing is, if Texas loses one more game, so let's say they go to Georgia and lose, but they beat A&M, top 5 A&M to end the year, and Texas is 9-3. A lot of chaos is happening. So, there's going to be a window. There's going to be a little crack in the door where one of these 9-3 SEC teams can sniff one of those lower seeds. I don't care if you don't like that. I'm just telling you it's going to be a possibility. How will the committee look back on this? Because this ended up being a very close game. And I wonder, like, if Texas had a 34-10 blowout of a top 10 team right there, boy, that's emphatic. Now, they won the game. So, a win is a win in that case. But if it comes nitpicking time, will the committee look and say, well, that wasn't an overly convincing win? You know how it can be. Now it could be the committee's looking for a reason to put Texas in, and they say, oh, it doesn't matter. By 50 or by 3, they won the game. Texas is still a dangerous team. If they've gotten a hot quarterback, Texas is still a very dangerous team. Went to the SMU game, which I'll talk about in great detail a little bit later on. But Quick Trip fueled us all the way there, all the way back, fueling the Fall Don't Lie tour. Had a number of SMU staffers actually refer to the tour by its name. That's refreshing. And so we were there yesterday, and even on the flight home, we're kind of wondering, where are we going this next week? Now, I had it narrowed down to 2 candidates. But look, I went somewhere in the spring, and I promised a certain someone that if they took care of business, there was a date on the calendar that I would come and visit them, and I would be at their game, and we would bring the yet-to-be-named tour to their campus. That team was Texas Tech, and Texas Tech took care of business in the aforementioned game against Kansas State last night. And so Joey McGuire did his job, and Brigham Young has more than done their job. So we're going to fulfill our end of the bargain. We are headed to Lubbock, Texas this Saturday. Fall Don't Lie tour will be on the sideline for BYU versus Texas Tech. It will be my first game I've ever seen at Texas Tech. We were there in spring. The speaker series went out there. Joey McGuire joined us, but never been to a game there. The drought is over. Now, actually in West Texas, it's not going to rain a drop all week. I looked at the forecast. But as far as our visit drought for a game, it's over. It could be, scratch that, it will be an electric atmosphere. As atmospheres in Lubbock, Texas go, I'm excited for the world to see that place. I think the world, the college football public, has seen bits and pieces, little snippets of Texas Tech this year, and they've watched them climb up the rankings. But really, how many of you have sat down and watched a full 4 quarters of Texas Tech? It's entertaining. Very multiple team, very dynamic team. And that's a word I'm using a little bit this year, but only to describe a few teams. Texas Tech's one of them.